We also know the funeral process can be daunting and costly. It doesn't have to be either. At Lane Funeral Home, we will not let price get in the way of celebrating your loved one's life. Call us today at Lane Funeral Home on Ashland Terrace.
You may have heard the recent news that Bruce Willis has now come out to say that he is struggling with a diagnosis of aphasia. For an awful lot of us, me included, I was not quite sure what that diagnosis meant, but we are going to educate you this morning because Sara Tinter is here. She is with Siskin Hospital for Rehabilitation and is a speech language pathologist with them. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
So, I tell you what, before we talk too much about Bruce Willis's particular case, what is aphasia?
So aphasia is difficulty with communication. It's a communication disorder that is acquired. So basically it means a person has difficulty getting their words out and then also understanding other people's words.
So you wanted to be kind of careful, but the easy press coverage has been that he can't act anymore because of a cognitive issue. You say that aphasia is not cognitive, it's muscle.
Well, it's not muscle, so we were talking about a different apraxia,
okay.
But basically what it is so cognition is more of that memory, thinking, reasoning, and some of the causes of aphasia could also cause cognition, but aphasia on its own does not affect cognition. It just affects the ability to get the words out.
Does this mean that if you've had a stroke, for example, aphasia might follow?
So stroke and brain injury is the most common cause. It can also be a result of a brain tumor, cancer, or some neurodegenerative disorders such as like dementia or something like that.
So sometimes is the aphasia what a loved one might see first and that then leads them to find the diagnosis?
Yes. So a person will have difficulty getting out what they want to say. It might happen slowly, or if there's something like a stroke or a brain injury, it might happen when that event is occurring.
Okay. So you're saying things like the person might have difficulty getting out. That makes me think that the person knows what he or she wants to say. They just can't say it.
And that's exactly word for word what I tell families when I'm explaining aphasia. The person with aphasia knows exactly what they want to say, they just can't get it out.
That's maddening. Is this a sudden onset or does it happen over time?
So depends on the cause. Typically with a stroke or brain injury, it occurs pretty soon after that. There are different types of dementia that it can come more slowly. It's more progressive.
Okay. So I'm trying to kind of think as I go here because I've got 1,002 questions. So I'm guessing that when someone comes to you at Siskin, each case is its own case, right? Yeah.
So everybody is different, and aphasia, there's different types of aphasia and it presents in different ways. The sole to have difficulty or to be diagnosed with aphasia is difficulty getting words out, but that can present in all different types of ways.
So when you're doing a therapy, and I think you had told me too, that some people may struggle with the majority of their words. Some people might just get stuck on a word. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's a range. So some people might just have difficulty getting words out every once in a while in a conversation, or some people aren't able to get words out at all.
So I'm going to go back to my muscle word that I used incorrectly a minute ago.
You're right.
But so much of what we do is our brain just sends signals as we develop to different parts of our body. So is that what the therapy looks like? That the brain and the mouth are talking, pardon the pun?
Yeah, so our brain is awesome, and so there's different parts of our brain, and there's one part that where language is. So if there's been any type of injury to that side of the brain, then that can affect communication. So a lot of times, and again, it depends on where a person is with their aphasia, but a lot of times we will start with things that are more on the right side of the brain to kind of help initiate language, and then our brains, we call it, kind of can retrain themselves or are plastic. So, the impaired part of the brain, there's other parts that kind of work to compensate.
Right.
So we teach strategies and practice different things to help them and to help their brain to kind of retrain to kind of take over those impaired areas.
You talk about what we know about the brain and the plasticity of it, and how we view it as a society today is very different from 20 and 30 years ago. So for people who were football players on the field and had multiple concussions, you know where I'm probably going. If you've had that, does that make you more susceptible to what would be considered a mild brain injury?
Yes. That's typically where they characterize TBI, concussions. Again, there can be a range, but yes, typically it's mild.
So what I'm hearing you say is don't dismiss it. If you had one in 1985,
right,
and then you're in a car wreck, don't let someone tell you that it's just an insignificant thing.
Well, and it's important, so if you have a car accident, you know, they might think that it was all caused by the car accident, so it is important to tell people, and especially with children in school, if somebody has a history of concussions, it's important to let the doctor know that, hey, they're having this difficulty now and they have this past injury that might be affecting it.
I've been talking to you so much I have forgotten two very important things, and we only have a minute or so left.
Okay.
But one is that y'all do your outpatient scheduling, right?
So we have an outpatient therapy program where a speech-language pathologist can do an evaluation and treatment of aphasia.
Okay, so that phone number is what you see there on your screen, 634-1720. But you can imagine what it's like to have the diagnosis of aphasia, so y'all have a support group. How often does that meet?
So we are just at the very beginning stages of the support group. A person with aphasia can feel a lot of pressure and anxiety in a social situation, so we're starting kind of small and then growing. Right now we're once a month, and we are currently screening potential participants. So I think there's a number,
That's the number, yeah,
on the screen. So if this sounds like something that you are dealing with, giving us a call and we can start that screening process.
It is such a pleasure to talk to you. I did not realize all the complexities of this, but the fact is there's hope.
Yeah, there is, and that's why the therapy, and we have different satellite campuses for Siskin, and therapy is just so important, especially right after the injury is very important. The sooner you get the therapy, the better it is.
Time is your friend. You can also learn more if you do call the main number there at Siskin, which is 634-1599. They'll connect you in.
Yes.
So if you didn't get those other numbers written down quite quickly enough, that's okay. And online at siskinrehab.org. Sarah, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Seems like CBD stores are popping up on every corner. Make sure you choose a knowledgeable